Hello and welcome back to the channel. It's Mark from PowerSonic and Apprentice 121. Today we are doing some electrical work in a domestic environment. We've got some additional sockets to drop in, we've got some wiring that's going to be redundant to remove, we've got some patching up to do, we're going to be fitting some electrical back boxes in new locations. I'm going to take you through the entire thing with me. Before we get on with it, I'll take you a quick run around the room and show you exactly what we're doing, some of the bits we're going to be using to do it, and then we'll get straight on with the video. So we'll start as we come into the room, and you can see we've got a light switch just here. These are one of the old Lightwave RF switches. We're going to be removing these because we never really used them, is the honest truth. We've got the Lightwave RF sockets on this wall as well that we're doing lamps and stuff. For a bit we did make use of them, but over time they've just kind of been left to their own devices and we've gone back to pressing buttons on the lamps themselves. So we're removing all of that. We're just going to go back to some normal sockets and match up the room with the same style sockets and switches. I'll show you those in a bit. You can see the chimney breast, or used to be the chimney breast, where we had our TV and media unit. That's all been changed now, so we're going to get rid of this socket. We need to fill that gigantic hole in the wall that housed this sync box. We've got all the old HDMIs that used to come out into the sound bar and media units down the bottom. That's all going. We're putting an electric fire on this wall here now, so it's all going to be redundant. We're going to lift the television a little bit higher, so we need to move that bracket. We've got some changes going on over here. We're going to lose one of those sockets, get rid of the aerial point as well, because that's going to move up to behind the TV. And then we're adding in a socket over here along this wall, so you can see we've got one here already. Drop one in over there, and then we're going to drop a socket in over here as well. It's the nearest one there. There's not any sockets on this wall whatsoever. This is, what's it called? Polystyrene base with a wood floating floor on top, so there is a gap all around the side. Very handily, the new build people didn't quite get into all the corners, so we have got a place to drop our cables into without having to rip everything apart. I don't want to start lifting the floor up and messing around with that polystyrene and all the heating pipes that are running underneath. So we're going to make use of this just to tuck the cables in out of the way and then drop up and down to our sockets as we move around the room. And then we'll look at making these safe. The accessories I am using are the new M2 variety. So I'll show you these. They're the M2 Slimlines, just white plastic. We don't really go for any of the fancy finish. So these are white molded accessories. There's a 25-year guarantee, and really impressed with these. Paid and bought for them, so not gifted. And you can see we've already got one over on here already, which is the USB variety, and they have a 30 watt max output on the Type A USB and a 33 watt on the USB-C, which is pretty decent, to be fair, for your switches in the wall. That's a nice touch, but we'll see how these wire up. I'll show it later on in the channel. We're going to get straight to just stripping out first, show how we approach that. We'll just take things apart, have a little chat as we do it, and then we'll set out our newer electrical back boxes when we get a little bit further along in the video. Okay, so when you're up to this stage, you then need to start getting the holes for your box on the wall so you can fix it back. Just pop the oval tube for the time being a bit lower down. Eventually we are going to bring that through the opening in the bottom of the box. For the minute, just push it out of the way. It's a little bit easier to work around then. And then we're making our box level, so we're going to need our spirit level just to pop on there and see how we're looking. That's lovely and level, actually, looking at that. So we've got no issue there. And now we just need to mark where we're going to get our fixing points in the back of this box. And again, I'm going to use a bit of the Marksman for that. So we've got a good opening here, give it a nice spray. One in the middle as well, and then looking behind this one, that's where a mortar joint was, and it's just broken apart a little bit. So we're not going to use that one, we're just going to use these two. And then we've got a couple of fixings on this box, and it's not going to go anywhere. So you see we've got this socket on the wall now. I've used a couple of washers in the back just to give it a bit of extra strength. We need to make sure we get that oval tube up into the box. You can run around and make good all these wall surfaces. I'll show a bit of that in this video as well. But then we're going to come back, do the second fix, have a look at those M2 accessories and see how I determine it into these 25mm boxes. I've got the other socket the other side of the room to repeat just the same as this. I'm not going to bore you with that content. I may pop a little musical clip up of me doing it very quickly. And then we'll have a look at wiring up into the existing sockets so we can take these spares from the right place, explain how we're doing it, get rid of some of the other electricals in this room, and then make everything good with the wall surfaces. Catch up with you in just a sec.
So you can see I've mixed up some bonding here to try and cover over these chases. This is just a first fill to get the depth all covered up. You need to squish it in from both sides. Make sure you're getting it right to the back of that chase and you've got it flat or just below flat inside it so you can apply the top cover in a sec. You see, just repeating that process on the rest of the chases around the room. Your bonding wants to be reasonably stiff in the mix, not too creamy, whereas the finishing mix is a little bit runnier, for want of a better word. You can see Bruno here testing it out, quality control, if it's edible or not. He's decided it's definitely not, but he's just going to double and maybe triple check that before he fully decides he definitely doesn't want to eat it. And yeah, he's just considering now if there's anything more tasty in any of these buckets as he follows me out of the room in case I drop any more nuggets along the way. You see now we're just getting the plaster out. This is the multi-finish for the top layer. And with that, again, as I said, you just want to mix that up so it's a bit creamier in consistency. Add your water into the bucket and then drop your plaster in until you've got it how you like it. Mixing quite a bit up here because I am also skimming the chimney front-faced wall. So we need to make sure I've got enough for that to get a first skim on. And then just go over your chases. So first up, you're just trying to get any of the imperfections, get your skimming over the top of the chase. Fill all the little indents up and make sure you've got it to a reasonable level. 2 coats is always my recommendation with this. So again, get plenty on there, fill up your chase, smooth it away and get rid of the excess. And then when you're at the stage of this hardening up, you can go along, give it a little spray and just flat it off so you know that it's nice and flat to the wall and you've got a nice surface to work from with your top finish. With that one, you're going to spread it a little bit wider, so you want to go outside the edges of the chase there and just skim up and away. Now, I made a mistake on that. I pulled a bit of grit up through, so you have to make sure you take any bits of grit out and then smooth it back down. Again, similar process. You just want to make sure that you've got it nice and flat with it first going over. Wait till it's hardened and then give it a spray and a polish up at the end, so you know you've got a nice cover onto your surface ready for paint. When you're at that stage, you can start wiring away the accessories. I'm using the Nipex stripping tool for 2.5 cable to give a nice clean cut on that LSF. It's a bit of a pain to strip it any other way, to be honest, but it takes it off really nicely. Clean out the back of the box and then make sure you cut in a reasonable length to terminate into the back of the socket. You don't want not enough, but equally you don't want the box absolutely squished full of cables either. Strip your ends off and then just connect them into the back of the socket front. You know, you get into a routine of doing these when you've done a fair few before, but always double and triple check that your line and neutrals are the right way around, and also give the cables a tug test after you've screwed them back to make sure they are nice and tight and soundly connected. And especially make sure you're not screwing down onto any insulation or sleeving. You want to be onto the actual copper conductors, common mistake for people to make. And then repeating the same process on this last socket here. So this is one where the ring comes into an existing socket and we're taking one of our spares out from it again with the oval tube poking up into the top of the box there. Point a note with a cable route on this. I did mention it's a polystyrene floor, but it has got a PVC covering all the way around that. So I was tucking the cable down the back of the PVC. It's like a sheeting, so it's out of contact with that polystyrene, because you can sometimes have a reaction between the insulating material on your cable and your polystyrene, so you don't ever want it in direct contact with that. But thankfully, the new build crew who put my house together didn't do an especially good job of insulating the floor, so there was a nice big gap to tuck it straight down onto the subfloor base itself, on top of that away from the polystyrene and with the plastic coating between it. You see here, just strip your cables to an appropriate length, dress them into the back of the box. Sometimes it's a bit difficult when you've got 3 cables going into a 25mm box, as is the case here. But if you're neat and tidy, you can do it plenty easy enough. Just make sure the new cable that you're adding in has a similar cable path to the existing cables that you're working with. Don't try and do something too super duper with them. You end up with just cables squashed all over. So try and follow a similar path is my best tip on that, and then fold the accessory back to the wall. So you're making sure you've got your cables in there. Tug tests and give a final termination. And if you've dressed everything in nicely and folded the socket away into the back box, you'll have absolutely no trouble screwing the front on, as I am doing here. And that is a simple extra addition of some sockets to a front room in my own home. These M2 accessories are absolutely beautiful. Let's have a chat.
Okay, so we'll start where it all first began, at the door frame, and you can see I've got that low level M2 USB socket. These are around 25-30 quid from CEF, so excellent value considering the 30 to 33 watts output. You can get the lower output variety, I think they're around 13-14 quid, so M2 are on the money there in terms of value because competitors at those output ratings are much more expensive, so full credit to them. And even the normal accessories, like you can see, we've gone for just a single light switch up there. At present, that's going to be swapped to a dimmer, but you know, you're talking 1 to 2 quid. The finish on them is really nice. They've got a nice shine, they feel nice, they operate nice. So yeah, nice solid click to them. So I like that. And then again, down over there, we've got another socket front. Chase is totally blended in. It's still drying out a bit where the filler was a little bit deep, so I've got a bit keen with the painting. But it is what it is, and that socket has actually had paint put all over it because somebody had a little touch up and go at it when they shouldn't have done outside of my eye line, and that's ended up getting paint on, so that's going to need cleaning, but it is what it is. Behind the TV we've got a double socket with the USBs, and I've just brought the cables out in the top of that. If this was a customer's job, obviously it'd be a brush plate or a HDMI and TV socket in the wall, but as it's my house, I know there's going to be a massive TV going on the front of it. I wasn't especially fussed, so I've just brought them out there, a bit rough and ready. As I say, be a great big TV on front, no one's ever going to see it, so there's no harm. Down here we've got this socket front with a wallpaper cut in. Again, wallpaper's not my choice, I've just stuck it to the wall. If you want to go and check out a bit of DIY that I'm putting together on another YouTube channel called DIY TV, where we're covering chasing, laying laminate flooring, wallpapering, plastering, there'll be a link in the description to go off and have a look at that as well, where we get more into house renovation and bits and pieces away from electrical work. There won't be any electrical work on that channel as such because electrical work is not DIY. So this is a new thing that I'm getting into where we're going to look at fitting bathrooms and other bits and pieces that we do as a sideline. And yeah, happy with that one there. And yeah, that's kind of it on that front. I think it's come up the business. There's this one over here. Again, you can't see the chasing. Neat and tidy in. All second fixed, as you will have seen earlier on in this video. Simple jobs that electricians are tasked with all the time at a domestic level, adding in extra sockets. And you can see in this room, just to explain the existing ring final circuit, that's on the existing ring, that one's on the existing ring, that one's on the existing ring, and this one at the door is on the existing ring. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 sockets on the existing ring. We've added 2 spares, actually 3 spares with the fire. So you always need to make sure you don't have more spares than you've got sockets on a ring final circuit when you are taking spares off. Just to keep in the back of your mind, if you end up with 10 sockets and 10 spares, really that's not good design. And you need to spread the ring around a little bit. So I hope you've enjoyed watching this video of me installing some electrical sockets. As I say, it's a pretty straightforward task most electricians are doing day to day, up and down the country. There's nothing revolutionary or revelationary about it, but sometimes the bread and butter stuff it is important to share on the channel when you are considering getting into the electrical industry of what you might be faced with. As I said earlier on this video, I have started up a new YouTube channel called DIY TV. If you're interested in renovation and a bit of DIY, I think there's 1 video up there so far, but we're going to expand on that. We've got a bathroom project going on. We're looking at doing a little extension. There's some work with laminate flooring, both in here and the hall. We're starting with some projects in my own home. We do some renovations as a sideline as well. So hopefully we can build that channel up and just share some tips and tricks from over the years that I've learned doing projects like that. But it absolutely will not feature electrical work because electrical work is not DIY, aside from maybe chopping in some boxes. But yeah, thank you for watching. If you've got any questions in and around this content, please do drop them in below. Any tips and tricks for the way you approach patching, filling and adding extra sockets onto ring final circuits or radial circuits, please do drop them in below, and I will see you on the next one.